Are you ready to get unstuck from your repetitive daily routine, tap into your mind and body's internal cues, and just discover the things in this world that will lead you to your life's greatest potential? Me too. I'm glad you're here today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Greatest Potential podcast. I am your host, Taylor. And today I'm going to be talking about the idea of toxic productivity and some themes and behaviors we can see surrounding this idea. And I do want to drop a disclaimer here at the very beginning of the episode because some of the things I talk about are going to be kind of borderline up for interpretation. And I do not want in any way to offend people if you feel like you're hearing yourself in some of the things I'm describing, or you feel like some of your behaviors are represented in what I'm talking about today. Yes, the title is Toxic Productivity, but a lot of these behaviors are signs that you're just a hard worker or signs that you're really passionate about whatever it is that you're doing. However, when it becomes toxic is when it becomes out of control and starts interfering with different aspects of your well-being and your overall life. So, if you feel called out, I do not mean for this to be a personal attack at all, but I do just want to call to attention some of the traits and behaviors and symptoms that can be associated with toxic productivity. And maybe if you do feel called out or you feel like some of this is speaking to you, it's a good chance to kind of reevaluate the way that you manage your tasks or the way that you schedule your time and things like that. So I'm also going to be pulling in from a couple of my past episodes. If you've been listening from the beginning, that's great. If you haven't, I'm going to be referring to a lot from episode 3 and episode 6. So episode 3 was my smart goal setting strategies episode. Episode 6 was my time budgeting episode. And then I'm going to sprinkle in maybe a little bit from episode 2, which was my New Year's resolution episode. But again, if there's a topic or a idea that I am talking about in the podcast that you don't understand, I'll try to link the time stamps from these podcast episodes. You can go just get a brief overview. But if I don't know how to do that, / if I don't have enough time to do that before I upload, I'll just go ahead and link the 3 episodes that I mentioned just now in the show notes so that you can click and navigate to them. And it'll be a Spotify link. That's just because I use the Spotify for Podcasters platform. So it's the easiest way for me to access all my old episodes. But if you use a different platform, go ahead and go into my Instagram to my link tree and navigate to the episodes. Also, that's completely not necessary. You should be able to get the full point of this podcast across without having to have the context of those other episodes. But just wanted to drop that in here. If you are familiar and you've been listening since the beginning, or you've listened to just a handful of my other episodes, you will see some common trends and things that I mentioned in those episodes coming into play today. Also, one more disclaimer, maybe 2, before I get into the episode. I did just eat this bomb meal that Sam and I just cooked, and it was this air fryer quick chicken parm. It was so delicious and so filling and literally the highlight of my night. And I also know that I might be having some digestion going on in the background, so I apologize in advance for any weird or strange noises that are coming out of me. I'll try my best to make sure that they're not captured or that I edit them out if I can, but I did just want to give that disclaimer just in case. Also, last one. So I'm experimenting with audio and mic setups and the whole shebang in terms of the best way to record my episodes. I'm going to be so real. I'm sitting on the floor of my closet because right now it's the most soundproof and the most private place I have to record episodes using my mic. I have noticed kind of just listening to episodes as I edit and as I upload them, there are kind of a lot of differences between the audio and sound quality from episode to episode. So I am still very early in this process, but I still want to deliver high quality for all of you. So I'm working on ironing out the details of what's the best way to do that. And one big roadblock, if you will, is this constant humming fan noise in the background, and it's coming from my laptop because the mic has to be plugged into the laptop to work effectively or to work at all. And it just makes this obnoxious airplane takeoff fan noise the entire time. And I don't know if you can tell that it's in the background, and I'm sorry if you couldn't tell before and now I called it to attention and then you start hearing it, but I don't know what to do in terms of how to not capture that in the mic. So I'll have to do some searching around for more information on that. But again, just wanted to clear the air there because I feel like I haven't really addressed like anything outside of the podcast topics in the past 8 episodes. So just wanted to call out some personal stuff today and get you in the loop on what's going on with me and what's going on behind the scenes for the podcast. So, oh my goodness, I was just spewing for so long, but let's go ahead and jump right into what the heck is toxic productivity. So I pulled a little bit of information from the internet for this, but I feel like a lot of it's just going to be kind of organic. So I wanted to get you like a solid definition on what toxic productivity is. I have my own interpretation of the concept, but I didn't know if it was exactly like Google accurate, and I don't want to be the source of all truth here on this podcast. It really is just a personal take, so don't take my word as final literally ever. But I did want to just bring like a little bit of background information in for you. So essentially what I found was the common theme in most of the resources I was looking at in terms of toxic productivity is when you feel the need or the drive to be productive at all times, not just during work or not just during side projects or side gigs or things like that, but it starts trickling into your personal life as well. And ultimately, there's a big difference between toxic productivity and just productivity in general. And you'll see a lot of traits and characteristics of regular productivity in toxic productivity. But the characterizing difference is regular productivity does not interfere with your well-being or your relationships or your health or your self-esteem or anything like that. Regular productivity is just a great way to feel on top of the tasks that you have to accomplish in your life, and a sense that you have a good grasp in time management and the capability to get things done when you need them done. So with toxic productivity, if we don't stop this or we don't recognize it early enough, it's really one of the easiest ways to cause yourself to burn out of whatever you're doing. Whether that's work, whether you're bringing work home with you, whether that's a hobby that you're diving headfirst into but you're not allowing yourself to enjoy the other aspects of life, whatever that looks like for you, ultimately, if you're experiencing toxic productivity in this aspect, whatever aspect you decided to identify for yourself, it can lead, like I said, to burnout. It can actually start to cause symptoms of mental health issues and can eventually snowball into developing actual diagnosable mental health conditions. And as much as it might seem backwards, toxic productivity can actually move you further away from achieving a really productive, healthy balance in life. It can actually take steps back if you're working on building healthy habits or working against goals or just improving your life's overall productivity. Toxic productivity will actually move you further away from achieving that good balance in life. So we really want to address it as soon as we can. And if you see or hear signs and symptoms that sound like yourself, again, this isn't a medical diagnosis, and my word is not the end-all be-all in terms of this topic. Definitely encourage you to research on your own, think about your own habits in life, and just assess, is this productive or is it toxic? So, one of the telltale signs of toxic productivity is when you're just setting completely unrealistic goals and expectations about what you're going to achieve with your time. And so I'm going to call back to episode 3 where I talked about SMART goal setting strategies. And if we remember, each letter of SMART identifies a different step in the goal setting strategy, and the R stands for realistic. So when we're going through our goal setting process, the realistic aspect of it is within the scope and capability of your human body and your lifestyle and things that are going on in your personal life, is it actually realistic for you to achieve XYZ? And if you remember, this was the episode where I said the letters XYZ about 80 billion times, because it was just hard to talk about setting goals without examples of tangible goals. But point aside, not having the ability to or being blinded out of setting realistic goals or realistic plans with how much time you have in your day to accomplish certain things can be one of the first indicators that your productivity style may be becoming toxic or may already be toxic. So if we think about in episode 6, the time budgeting episode, and I'll give context for those that haven't listened, but I explained how when you're planning out your time, it's really important to have the must-do category, your want-to-dos, and then your would-like-to-dos, right? So if you are falling into this toxic productivity category, you may find that you are piling up things in your must-do category. So rather than putting going to the gym or completing your chores or finishing all your work between the hours of 8 and 4 p.m., And then as soon as 4:30 hits, you may be over assigning things that you are determining that you have to do. And this is great if there are a bunch of little tasks that genuinely you feel like you can accomplish without too much time commitment or too much mental load. For example, a regularly productive person might say, okay, health is very important to me. Cooking 3 clean meals a day and going to the gym I have to do to feel like I have lived my best day. However, a regularly productive person won't also include having to do all of their chores and having to make sure the apartment is completely squeaky clean, and making time for social life and friends as have-to-dos as well. This is where the regularly productive person would maybe put those 3 things I just stated into the would like to do or the should do categories. So, where you see toxic productivity in the play, and this is just in terms of the time budgeting example, is if someone were to say, no, I absolutely have to hang out with my friends, I absolutely have to do my chores, I absolutely have to clean the apartment, but I also still can't skip out on the gym and cooking myself 3 clean meals a day and working my 9 to 5 and getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Like, there's just, realistically, if we think about it, in the waking hours that we have in a day, it is completely unrealistic to expect that you can do every single one of those things every single day if you're doing it to the best of your ability. So this toxic productivity mindset, though, doesn't allow you to see that that's unrealistic. To the person that is suffering with toxic productivity, they see this as, oh, I'm awake, I should be doing something that is going to improve my life, or doing something that creates value, or doing something that removes a stressor, or removes something negative from my life. But over time, that mindset that in every second that you are awake, you have to be doing something that brings value or contributes to something or moves an activity or a project forward, you're going to have no time in your life to simply be and to simply relax and to let loose and to truly have leisure time. Because it's one thing to plan for your leisure time. That's productive. If you want to get all of your things done by a certain time in the day, and then you're like, okay, after 9 p.m., that's me time, which I'm in my mid-20s, so 9 p.m. to me is like 6 p.m. to the mid-aged adult because my bedtime isn't until like midnight most nights, but that's just a me example. And this is not to say either that a toxic productivity person doesn't realize that it's not realistic, but to them, they feel that they are not being productive unless everything they do is productive. And you can start spiraling a little bit if you're in this place to where you think, oh, like I would love to hang out with my 2 friends from college, but it would take me 6 hours to get there. This is just my own example. My friends from college live 6 hours away from me, okay? Don't come for me. But in this fake example, oh, my friends from college live 6 hours away, and I would have to arrange a car ride to get there. And on the way there, I can't be doing chores or I can't be working. And then once I get there, I'm going to have to figure out what plans I want to do with them. And if we're just sitting around, then I can't accomplish this and this and this. So I just can't go. I can't spend time with them because I won't be able to accomplish everything I need to do. And while that is valid in some cases, if that is what you consistently find yourself doing in situations where you have the chance to either live your regular daily life, work on your work on your hobbies, work on your activities, and then stay home alone and do it again the next day, if that's what's serving you temporarily, that's totally okay. But if you find yourself consistently missing out on social opportunities or hobby opportunities or things like that because you're so preoccupied with having to do something productive, and I put productive in air quotes, I know that this is an audio episode, but I'm doing air quotes around the word productive because hanging out with your friends is productive. Taking a road trip to go see people that mean a lot in your life is very productive because that's contributing to the relationships in your life and that's contributing to your mental well-being. Honestly, sometimes it contributes to your physical well-being because all the feel-good chemicals in your body are at an all-time high. So, it can reduce your stress. It can reduce the bad stress, I should say. It can make you feel more chipper, feel more energized. And there's just a lot of good physical benefits as well to feeling mentally happy. But that's a little bit of a tangent. All of this to say, if you're regularly productive, I'll say regularly and then toxic because I feel like those are the 2 distinctions between productivity, at least in this episode. If you're regularly productive, you recognize it's okay for me to just have times where nothing is planned. It's okay for me to take a break from accomplishing things or checking things off the to-do list. And it's okay for me to just sit down and be. If you're in the toxic productivity category, you might feel a lot of discomfort with just sitting down and allowing yourself to be. You might find discomfort in not having a checklist or not having things to check off your checklist. And it might feel weird or strange or even bad sometimes to go out to a bar with friends or go do a karaoke night or come in and do a game night because you feel like there are things you should be accomplishing. Emphasis on the should. Because at no time in life is there anything that's truly that deep, unless it's in matters of life, death, and health, that need to be handled immediately. Sometimes things can sway that way if it has to do with money, if it has to do with legal activities. There's a lot of gray area in terms of things that absolutely need to happen. But a lot of times it's typically matters of life, death, and health. And if you don't get your laundry done, unfortunately, I hate to tell you, but life will go on. And hopefully no one has a casualty as a result of your laundry sitting on your floor. So, again, slight tangent. But I wanted to just clarify, things that need to be done is in air quotes as well, because some things do absolutely need to be done. But not your laundry on a Friday night when all your girlfriends are hanging out. So, I kind of alluded to this a little bit already, but if you are someone who's experiencing toxic productivity in your own life, it can start to drive you away from the relationships and from the people in your life. So, like I described in the example of your friends are all going out on a Friday night, and you're at home because you feel like you absolutely have to do your chores. That's completely okay, in moderation. You don't want to get to the point where you start isolating yourself from social activities or from once-in-a-lifetime events or quirky little unique things about your stage of life because you're doing chores. Chores have to get done, whether we like it or not, and there are times where we have to say no to something we would enjoy to do because we have to get things accomplished. Or sometimes for work, as an example, there is a really important pressing project, or there's a lot of stress or things going on at work that absolutely need to be handled that day or as soon as possible because the functions of your core role can't go on without you addressing these things or without you fixing them. All of this is okay until it starts getting in the way of your personal relationships. And that's when you really need to evaluate, okay, is what I'm doing bettering me to the point where these relationships will no longer serve me? Or are the things that I'm doing great in the moment, but are they driving me away from the relationships and the people that I need to feel fulfilled and that I need to make my life complete? And if you don't know where you fall on the spectrum, imagine yourself in the position of one of your good friends, okay? So if you are someone who is regularly, we'll just say every other week, coordinating an activity or a hangout with your friends, and you have one friend that consistently is saying, oh, I wish I could make it, but I have to catch up on XYZ. Or, oh, I would love to come, I may try and squeeze it in, to put me down as a maybe, but I have this, and this I need to do at home. At some point, and nothing against this person, but at some point you're just going to realize this person probably isn't going to be available when I invite them to do things. So if there's a spur of a moment pop-up event, or you see something on the side of the road and you're like, oh, that sounds so cute, let's head over right now, the chances of you inviting said person are probably going to start getting slimmer because they always have outside commitments. And it's when these outside commitments start getting vague and repetitive, that's when you kind of start to drift away. So putting yourself back in the shoes of yourself, right? For me, I think this is something that hits home a little bit, not in terms of toxic productivity, but just in terms of the stage of life I'm in. So I wanted to provide this example too as like a contrast to toxic productivity because it's a little bit different. So I have alluded to in past episodes, but if you're new, I'm on a professional dance team where we have competitions and gigs and performances around just like the Chicago metro area and sometimes across the nation, which is so cool. So glad that I have that opportunity. But there's a lot of hours of training that goes into this team, not just in our rehearsals and in our practices, but there's a lot of classes and opportunities to train and improve and grow as a dancer outside of our regularly scheduled practice times that I want to attend those too because it makes me a better dancer, it makes me happy, and it's a really big hobby of mine, as well as kind of a side gig at this point. So in these instances, I oftentimes have to decline invites to friend group hangouts, or maybe book club is held on the night that I have rehearsal. So in these cases, yes, I am the person who is saying, I'm so sorry guys, I wish I could make it, but I have dance I have practice, I have rehearsal. These are my consistent days where I'm gone. Let's try and squeeze it in when I'm not dancing or when I'm not practicing or when I'm not rehearsing. And this is how I maintain those relationships, and this is how I stay in touch with those groups, and this is how those friendships of mine have still persisted throughout me having this really, really big side commitment. I'm not pushing people away in my life because of dance. I'm not neglecting my social circles because of dance. I am just sharing with them why I can't particularly attend on this night, at this time, in this event. So, where we see toxic productivity coming into play here, and this is why I wanted to circle back to this example, because I did want to give the color of just because you have outside commitments does not mean that you're toxic productivity. That just means that you have a busy life. And there's a big difference between toxic productivity and just being a busy person, right? Because if you're a busy person, you get home and you allow yourself to relax. On the weekends, you know that you're not committed to anything right now, and you allow yourself to go out and have fun, de-stress. You don't put everything on the forefront. You allow things to sometimes move to the back burner for the sake of your leisure time and your fun time. Where it becomes toxic productivity is when, one, perhaps you're overcommitting, or perhaps you are a busy person, but when you're not doing actually scheduled or mandatory events, you still feel the need to load on other things that you quote unquote should be doing, such as chores, such as fitness, such as planning or crafting a life for yourself, or doing something that you feel like will progress you forward. That's when it becomes to the toxic side of the productivity, right? So you can be a busy human. A lot of us in our early 20s, we are so busy, and from what I hear with people with kids, it only gets busier. So can't imagine what that's going to be like, but hey, we're along for the ride, right? So being busy, being productive, having a case of toxic productivity are three separate things. I just wanted to kind of give some color onto those different examples to show what I mean by the differences of each. So it can be a little bit hard when your hobbies or your habits or your productivity gets in the way of what you see as a good connection, but as long as you are catering to those friendships, as long as you are giving care to these people, as long as you're communicating why or when you're doing things that might interfere with your friendships or your hangouts or your relationships in whatever aspect that may be, the true and authentic ones will stick around. It's never your fault if someone chooses to leave your life for whatever reason, or they feel like they're not compatible with you anymore for whatever reason, but when it does start to shift the blame a little bit onto you as the individual is when your lifestyle and your choices are not allowing you to truly enjoy that person's presence, or you're not giving them the time of day to share their passions with you, or things start becoming so self-centered on you achieving or finishing or checking things off the checklist that this person doesn't feel like they have time or space in your life to fit in with how much you're doing. That's when things start to become the toxic productivity level, and that's when we want to reevaluate and say, hey, is this person outgrowing me? Have I outgrown this person? Or am I being unrealistic with myself about how productive I need to be? And should I kind of reassess my relationship with productivity? This isn't to say that you should never be productive. That is not the message that I want to portray in this episode. I think that I'm going on kind of a personal journey right now with discovering productivity and figuring out what my best day looks like, what my best week, what my best month looks like, how I can accomplish all the things I would like to while still saving time for relaxation and doing nothing. And I also don't want to get to the point where I feel so preoccupied with having to do the right thing or do the good thing that I lose the fun in life. And I think that's kind of the point I want to close this home with before I get into kind of a tip that I found. So it's okay to do nothing. That is so important. And I'm going to say that again. It is okay to do absolutely nothing. If you want to, or even if you don't want to, but you feel like you need to, sit on the couch or lay in your bed or sit in your car. Hopefully you're not driving. Please don't be driving while you do this. But if you just need to sit there and lay and zone out and let your eyes go blurry, let your mind go blank, or maybe you just grab for your phone and feed your little social media addiction like me and have some screen time, that's okay. It's really important that we don't get caught up in feeling like every waking moment has to be productive or has to be working toward a goal. And that can be hard to wrap your mind around, especially if you're in a stage of life like myself, where I really am having a heavy focus on self-improvement and well-being and undoing years of bad habits and creating new habits and all of the things that I've talked about in this podcast and that I'll continue to talk about just to create my life better and create a more well-being for myself. It's hard when you're in a place of so much self-development and self-growth and self-discovery to feel okay with doing some of the old things. It's hard for me to go to bed without doing my full skincare now, which is good. I'm glad that I've gotten into that state. But it's also okay if I skip skincare sometimes. My skin's been around for 24 years. It will bounce back. It knows what to do. Similarly, it's sometimes hard when I go to bed and I see my suitcase from the weekend still packed and half open, but also it is okay for me to sometimes still leave things on the table that need to get done if that's not the priority at the time. Because like I said at the beginning of the episode, tonight I made the most delicious meal with Sam, and I woke up from my nap after work, came into the kitchen, he was out on a grocery run, we came back in, whipped out a meal, and that was amazing to just spend that time together and create that meal. But if I had been so over-obsessed with having to get the right things done and having to, quote-unquote, do the productive thing, I would have unpacked my suitcase. I would have gone and vacuumed the living room. I would have vacuumed the bedroom. I would have made the bed. I would have done so many other different things before I would have had the chance to spend quality time with Sam. So these are the examples that in my current stage of life, it's sometimes hard for me to get past the idea of I want to do the thing that will propel me forward and make me productive and make me live a full life. But it's okay to not always live a full life. You don't have to do everything at 100% all the time. And if you've been around from the beginning, you know that I say this a lot about my episodes, but a lot of the content I record is a personal message for me as much as it is informational for you. I sometimes need to speak these realities into existence to believe them, and like I talked about in my journaling episode. Oh, I forgot to allude to that one in the beginning. I'll have to link that one too. But in episode 8, where I talk about journaling, I was saying that part of the reason I've been so great with processing things recently and just discovering things about myself is because I've had the outlet to write them down on paper rather than letting them live in my head. So a lot of the episodes I make here on this podcast are also things that are kind of swimming around my head or that I'm dealing with currently that I feel like, one, I could benefit from talking about, and two, other people could benefit from finding solidarity that they're not alone, or just being exposed to this for the first time and having another tool in your toolkit in terms of living your greatest potential as well. So if you're in a similar stage of life where I am, where you want to do everything right, you want to improve, you want to be better, just know it doesn't always have to be 100%. You can still do things that you've been doing for the past 20-something years, and you're not going to lose your progress, and that doesn't make you bad, and that doesn't mean you failed. It means that you're human. And if you feel like you're falling into trends of toxic productivity, just take a step back, think about what I've talked about today. Think about, are you being realistic? Think about, is this going to serve me? Think about, is this going to impact the relationships with people in my life? And think about, if you don't do this right now, will life go on? Chances are the answer is probably yes, and you can push that to the side and take time for yourself to just veg out if that's what you need, to go out hang with your friends if that's what you want, and to just exist. Life was not intended for us to work until we die. I know sometimes it feels like it's framed that way, especially in the US, but I promise being lazy and taking life slow is okay. There's a lot of cultures that live their entire lifestyle that way and are completely happy and are completely fulfilled. So the words toxic productivity can sound really big and scary, but I just wanted to shed some light on the difference between being productive, being toxically productive, and things that you can do in your life that may point you to one of the directions. Maybe you feel called to change a little bit of your habits now because you might be erring toward the side of toxic productivity. Or maybe you feel like, okay, I've been a little bit lazy, I can start taking steps towards regular productivity. So wherever you fall on that spectrum, I see you, and I have probably been there. And I do have one last word of advice before I leave you today. And this is something I discovered, again, while researching a little bit around the topic of toxic productivity. And this is called the 3-3-3 rule. And I don't know if it's going to be as easy to remember as the name, but basically this rule says that in any given day, there are 3 groups of activities that you should allocate to yourself. So in the morning, decide 3 main accomplishments that you want to achieve before lunch. These can be big, these can be small, But the main point here is, like I mentioned in the SMART Goals episode, make them realistic. Similarly to what I mentioned in the New Year's resolution episode as well. Don't make this something so far-fetched and so ambitious that you're just never going to achieve it, right? So list out 3 things, and this can be a mental list, this can be a checklist, especially if you fall into that toxic productivity category. A lot of times you can feel that you are checking things off of a list, a never-ending list that just keeps accumulating. Maybe you want to make a tangible list for this, right? List 3 things that you want to accomplish before lunch. Okay, great. So that's the first set of 3. The second set of 3 is listing 3 more things that you want to accomplish before dinner. So these have to be separate things from the first 3, right? Because if you're in this toxic productivity cycle, you have to constantly be doing things at all times. That's just the way that your brain is wired at this current moment, until we can learn to talk ourselves out of this and talk ourselves in a different direction, moving back toward the regular productivity. But find 3 different tasks, again, however big, however small, but emphasizing how realistic these 3 tasks are, and allow yourself to complete these tasks before dinner. So maybe, again, you do a mental checklist, maybe you do a physical checklist, but make space for yourself to complete these tasks before dinner. So that's the second group of 3. The final group of 3 is find 3 activities that you like to do that you will squeeze into your day. And this, I want to emphasize, can be literally any activities. If you like to get home from work, take off your work clothes, change into cozy clothes, and lay there and just cuddle, put that on the checklist. That's one of your items. These are the kind of things that I recommend for these last 3 items, things that you like to do, that you want to squeeze into your day. So maybe you really like cooking, so you want to make sure that in your day you cook a meal for yourself or someone else, whatever that may look like. Some other examples could be maybe coloring books, or watching TV, or playing an instrument, or scrolling on TikTok, maybe playing video games. Whatever it is that brings you joy and you like to do. This could even be going out to the bar with your friends, taking a walk, whatever it is that you enjoy. And then find time from morning to night to squeeze these 3 activities into your day. So that's the last set of 3. This is the 3-3-3 rule. 3 things that you want to accomplish between morning and lunch, 3 things that you want to accomplish from after lunch into before dinner, and 3 things that whatever time throughout the day at your discretion you like to do and you want to do, and you'll squeeze them into your day. If you are stuck in a cycle of toxic productivity, this method can be so great to help you lose that idea that you can't do things for yourself, or you can't do fun things, or you can't relax. Because the idea of framing your fun things and your leisurely activities as tasks in the form of this 3-3-3 list, you'll still feel like you're accomplishing something. You'll trick your brain into saying, oh, this is productive, I should be doing this. While in reality, you're allowing yourself, you're retraining yourself to enjoy your personal time, to enjoy your relationships with people. So this is a super great hack for people that feel stuck in that toxic productivity cycle. And I highly recommend, if you even see a little bit of traits of this in yourself, maybe try this activity for 1 single day. And if it makes you feel really good, 1, I'm so proud of you for taking that step and trying it out. And 2, I really encourage you to keep doing it, keep working on it, and then before you know it, you will probably retrain yourself that it's okay to have fun, it's okay to let loose, it's okay to slip away from your strict expectations of yourself, and you will no longer be in the toxic productivity stage. You will be just a productive person, and you will not spiral, you will not lose your progress, you will not have any mental health issues, you'll be great, you'll be thriving, and you're going to live your best life regardless. So this is a vastly different ending than the social media episode I recorded a couple weeks ago, because I left with doom and gloom and despair and just what is our world going to? And today I just want to leave you with hope and positivity that there's so much that this life has to offer, and you've seen it. You've got a taste of it before in your life. And if you're stuck, you're not alone. And through the help of the people close to your life and your own willpower and resources that you can find online or through this episode, I believe that you can get to your happiest, most full life without hanging out in that toxic area. Because we are not toxic here at Greatest Potential. So that is all I have prepared for you today. Hopefully you got something out of this episode. I personally got a lot out of just sharing my experience with you today and talking through times I may start slipping into these toxic productivity ideals. But I feel like through the research I've found and through trends I've noticed about myself and through others, I feel like I am better equipped to handle situations where I may start slipping into this pattern. And I hope you do too. So again, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.